Welcome back. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shannon Register, and this week we are talking about the high-speed rail that's proposed to go from Houston to Dallas. You've been hearing from Judge Robert Eccles about the project and the plans they have laid. They've got a route pretty much narrowed down, and you've heard lots of information about it. So, he talked a lot about how business owners in the urban areas are really supporting the project, but that they are really getting a lot of flack out in the rural areas. So we've brought in County Judge Ben Leman, and he is here to talk about his project, Texans Against High-Speed Rail. And you can actually go to texansagainst.hsr.com to get more information about this. And he's talking a little bit about some of the issues that they're seeing with what's going on with the high-speed rail. So thanks for coming and talking to us today. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
It's a judge weekend.
Yes.
All right. So I want to hear your perspective on the high-speed rail, what you think about it. Obviously, eminent domain has to be used to be able to make this a straight rail, a high-speed rail to go from Houston to Dallas. There's a lot of land between the two cities that have to be taken into consideration once the route is narrowed down. What is your take on that? What do you think?
Well, we have, as far as the main issues that you're asking about, there are really two main issues that we feel all Texans will join us in supporting, and it's the use of eminent domain for a private entity that will remain the sole primary financial benefactor of this project. Mm-hmm. So it's not like freight rail, where you have many businesses that use that, or roads,
right,
or transmission lines or pipelines,
just
stuff
one
like that.
Private company.
That's right. This will be a dedicated rail system with cyclone fencing on both sides, and they will be the sole benefactor or sole primary financial benefactor of the project. So that's the first one, which we feel is a different threshold of use for eminent domain than previously seen in the state of Texas. The second one is the feasibility of this project. We really are concerned about the financial viability and what happens after it inevitably fails and to meet its financial obligations.
Yeah.
So at that point, we feel the taxpayer is at risk for a taxpayer subsidy.
A bailout.
A bailout, and not necessarily a lump sum bailout, but an ongoing subsidy, kind of like an Amtrak type model that makes the business plan whole, right? So those are the two major issues, but there are many other issues as well.
Okay. So one of the things that Judge Eccles mentioned is that since they are a private company, even though they're using eminent domain, that since they're a private company, they can go to a landowner and offer them higher than market rate for that land because they are a private company. They don't have to just offer them market rate. So I would assume there are some some landowners who are just have cattle on that land. It's not going to divide the land. It's not going to be an issue for them, and they're going to agree to sell to it. But then there are other owners who are not going to want to do that. What are some of the reasons why they would not want to do that?
So that same scenario exists already with private pipeline companies or transmission companies. That same option exists, and they go through that process. The result is what you find is there are some that will settle,
right,
and there are some that don't,
right,
and those that don't go through the justice system there to
fight it.
Yeah, to fight it, the system to fight that.
Yeah. So with eminent domain, I mean, your big issue, it sounds like, with eminent domain is this even viable? Is this even what eminent domain should be used for, right?
Yeah. Well, so when you think about it, I haven't seen another example of this in the state of Texas, whether it's the freight rails I mentioned earlier, or roads where businesses can use, or transmission lines that we all use to turn the lights on, or businesses use to operate their facilities. We have pipelines that generate the flow goods to generate the power that we all use. So this is just very narrow. And so when you utilize eminent domain, the question is, is there a threshold there? But also it's for what reason, right? For public benefit. And in this case, so you have, this gets into the feasibility of it. So we'll start talking about that where you have the question, why? Why is this a public benefit? So when I think of the congestion between Houston and Dallas, I observe it in the population centers, Houston and Dallas.
Not the in-between.
Yes, it's not in Buffalo, Texas.
Right.
So So every person that's currently driving between the two, Dallas and Houston, that TCR is counting on coming over to the train, every day they get up and they drive on the local freeway systems and get on I-45 and head out of town. But to get to that train depot, they're going to have to do the same exact thing. So they have not displaced one vehicle from the congested areas that is in desperate need of it, right? So it's not providing a transportation solution for the congestion in the populated areas, which is where it's needed. So that's important because when you tie this to the feasibility of it, so if I'm sitting in the Woodlands and I'm considering riding this train, the door-to-door travel time is what people need to factor. I know that it's advertised a 90-minute train ride, but the flight time is 30 minutes, right? But is the door-to-door travel time 30 minutes on an airplane? Absolutely not. It's 3.5, 4 hours.
Takes half a day to get there.
That's right. Same thing with this high-speed rail. You have a 30-minute commute. You'll get there 30 minutes early to park, walk, check in, cushion for traffic, etc. 90-minute train ride, and then you'll get a taxi cab or rent a car when you get there and go another 30 or 45 minutes. And that's 3.5 hours roughly, and you throw TSA on that, you're at 4 hours. So the drive time's the same, 3.5 to 4 hours. And so what really comes into play then is cost. They advertise the general airfare is about the same cost of this train, which is about $275 round trip with proper notice and including the rental car or taxi that you're going to get at the end and parking fees. Driving $75. So 18 million people every year drive between Houston and Dallas, and they've made the decision that it's not feasible for them to take financially or for whatever reason to take the airplane. And 1.5 million people take the airplane every year. So they've estimated up to 9.9 million people riding this train. That's every 30 minutes in each direction. That means a train passing by with 400 passengers on it every 15 minutes. Somebody's home or place of business right there at 200 miles an hour. And so when you annualize that, that's about 10 million people. So where are all these people coming from? Even at 50% capacity, they're still talking 5 million people. There's only 1.5 million people that use airplanes. So just because, with all else equal, just because it's a plane instead of a train, I don't understand the logic in concluding that 3.5 million more people would ride the train. Even at 25% occupancy, you're still at 2.5 million people. It's still 1 million people more than if they got every single airline passenger to come over.
Now, have you added to those numbers the fact that so many people are moving to Houston per day? I mean, there's a lot of influx of people coming to Houston and to Dallas. Are y'all adding that in and projecting out of because the airlines aren't going to be able to handle, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, right? They aren't going to be able to eventually handle the commute between Dallas and Houston with the amount of people moving here and all the businesses growing and coming here. We would need some other way to get people back and forth. Do you not agree with that? Do you think that that's just not, or that that's too far out to be planning for a rail for that?
No, I think you always have to look long term in your transportation planning needs, of course. And like I said earlier, is that this doesn't provide a transportation solution from getting people off the congested areas, right? Even if that growth happened, every one of those people still have to get on.
They got to get to the train.
That's right.
Just like they got to get to the airport.
you still have that. The situation's continuing to get worse. Secondly, is that when you look at the statistics on growth, that fluctuates over time drastically in the Houston market. Why? Because oil field. Look at it today. I don't think we're moving this point forward over the next year. I doubt our growth rate will be anywhere close to it was the last few years, right? With oil going down, the layoffs happening, we don't have that magnet to make people come here at this point. So I think that the population demands on transportation needs to be looked at consistently in the long term with that perspective in mind.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Let's come back next segment. We've got to have a word from our sponsors, and we're going to come back, and I want to talk about some of the other issues. I know there's some tax issues that you want to discuss, and let's talk about this a little bit more. You've got some interesting points to make here, and I like it. So we'll be right back here on Houston Real Estate Radio. If you missed any of today's show, you can catch it all online at HoustonRealEstateRadio.com. And if you've got a question and you want to chime in, give us a call, 280-636-8255. 281-882-8088. We'd love to hear your opinion on what you think about the high-speed rail coming to Houston or in Dallas. Maybe. We'll see. We'll be right back.